What's up, YouTube? Hope everything is well with you guys. Today I have another amazing guest, like always. I have Dan with me, a channel that I've been watching for a long time, and you know that I really enjoy your content, and it's a pleasure to have you with me. But again, I assume a lot of my viewers also are aware of you. But if you can share a couple of words to people that may not know you, I think this is a great moment.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, Andre. I'm very happy to be on here. I've been watching a lot of your content also, so yeah, big fan of yourself. So my name's Dan. I run Sports Cards UK, which is primarily a YouTube channel, and then I have some sort of social media around that. So I'm quite big on Instagram. I haven't quite got to grips with TikTok at the moment. I am on there, and I did go really quite big on TikTok for a while, but then I sort of
Then just one thing, I'm sorry.
yeah,
Actually, preparing for the podcast, I end up checking out your TikTok, and you have a lot of followers there. At least for
yeah.
me, I assume is a lot.
Yeah, but they all came from one specific video actually, which I have pinned, which was just like a comedy humor type thing to do with football, nothing to do with sports cards, funnily enough. So yeah, I did get a lot of I got a lot of subscribers from UAE, which was quite interesting. So
Oh,
yeah, they all loved Ronaldo, and I did a video on Ronaldo, so that was quite interesting. But yeah, I struggle a little bit with content because I prefer YouTube videos because I just think they're longer, and I've been enjoying YouTube Live recently. I've been doing a bit of that and really enjoying the sort of communication, the live chat that you've got. So that element's been really fun.
no, yeah, for sure. The thing about TikTok, actually, I got a comment the other day on my YouTube that I should create one. But I
Yeah.
don't even think about that. I don't know. I don't think I'm that good for that type of content. Just I enjoy this type of stuff, longer conversations. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that, and TikTok could potentially be a good tool to help grow my channel, grow the community, etc. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I always look at TikTok like this is a tool for the new generation, not for me.
Yeah. I suppose one thing that I will say about TikTok is that the reach is unparalleled. That YouTube, you don't get that same sort of level of reach with other platforms. But what I will say, TikTok lends itself really nice to podcast clips. If you clip up the podcast, if someone has I mean, you talk about hot takes a lot. So if someone has a hot take or an unpopular opinion, that sort of thing is great to just tie up into like a 20-second clip or something like that. And clips type channels, I guess you would call it, or pages on TikTok do really well. So you technically wouldn't actually have to create any content. You just have to edit
it's just
the
copy.
content that you've got.
Yeah, I for sure. So yeah, the way the podcast works, I'm sure you are aware. I have quite 5 questions for you, and I know you also have 5 questions for me. I ask you a question, you ask me another one. We give our first thoughts, and then we have a longer conversation. Can I start right now then? Okay,
Yeah.
so question number 1. You have been doing videos actually longer than me. I remember, like I said at the beginning, watching your YouTube channel before I even created mine. And I saw a lot of people, I'm talking even about content creators, go and come, in the last 2-3 years. And you probably saw the same. What's your opinion about the content creator scene in the soccer space? Few words, then we can have a longer conversation on this topic.
I think it's certainly bigger over in the US than it is in Europe. Me personally, I would like to see a lot more content creators in Europe, especially from the UK, me being in the UK. But I do feel that, yeah, I agree with you. There was a few that sort of came and go that I actually were big fans of their channel. And I kind of do wish that they were coming back. But the ones that we do have, I think, are very good. I think we're all kind of growing together. I mean, literally overuse this phrase all the time, but that kind of rising tide raises all ships type thing. If there's more of us, I think we all gain from it. We all do really well. So yeah, I think my biggest thing for European sports cards YouTube is I just wish it was bigger, or maybe English speaking European, because I know having said that, I know there's quite a few sort of German box break channels and things that I see, but in terms of sort of English speaking, then I would like to see more of them. But the ones that yourself, Jojo JMS, just to name a few, just to name a couple that spring to mind, I think are very, very good. And I'm hoping that you've got someone like GBW. I'm not sure if you've heard of him. He's huge in the match attack space.
Oh, I don't know, but for example, in Portugal there is there is big channels about Panini stickers also. So yeah, basically targeting what certain country consumes the most. But
that's a good point. Yeah.
But your channel, my channel are a little bit different. We talk about the in a macro perspective of the grading game, the collectible space. I think those are two different things. But I agree with you. I think that's a great point for sure. So yeah,
I hope those people that do things specifically, like you say, like the stickers in Portugal or the match attacks here, when they blend into sports cards a little bit, it does kind of give people that just maybe do collect those things a little teaser into what the things that we collect are like. So hopefully some big names, whether they're celebrities or something like that, that gets into sports cards or sheds some lights onto sports cards, even sporting stars like Alphonso Davies and people like that.
Okay. No, I get what you are saying, and yeah, we have that potential. You know that we can actually have famous people actually talking about soccer cards, even educating the market potentially in the future. There is a lot of big streamers related with FIFA, something that I talk frequently on this channel. But I agree, and now with the FIFA World Cup, for sure there will be more content creators trying to enter the space. So shoot me your first question.
So first question I've got for you, I've just got them written all down here just so that I don't forget them. So I love an oddball item. I collect things that are quite random. I've collected all different types of cards, whether they're postcards, cigarette cards, sports cards, and all types of sports. So from 10-pin bowling to snowboarding. I wanted to know, what is do you have a card within your collection that you would consider like an oddball item, whether that's unique by the player or the sort of the type of card that it potentially would be?
Okay, needs to be related with sports.
Yeah.
With sports, I basically only collect soccer, to be honest with you.
Okay.
But I have some Rafael Nadal and Federer rookie cards. Nothing super crazy. I bought them very cheap 2-3 years ago because I actually enjoy watching tennis, especially big games. I'm not sure I'm a super big aficionado that watches everything. No, not the case at all. But I like to watch the major tournaments, basically the Grand Slams. And I know actually that Topps is releasing Topps Chrome Tennis very soon. So I think that will actually be a big deal. And again, not my market. And that being said, I don't think I have an idea to enter the tennis market, but I think tennis have a lot of potential. Yeah. I collect some odd stuff, but not related with sports. Actually, I ended up sharing this with Joe. I have some Queen Elizabeth rookie cards. I have some I don't know, Magic the Gathering, Harry Potter cards. I have a lot of different stuff, but more on the, let's say, almost pop culture, sports. Basically soccer. I have a bit of tennis, but not a lot.
Okay.
So actually that question will be quite long because I'm really curious about your perspective, not mine, because I watch your Mail Mondays and you have a lot of random stuff from time to time. So I think your perspective will be much more interesting than mine, honestly. So question number 2, this is a fun game for you. Let's say I can give you 20K, not the case at all, but let's say I can give you 20K and you can just buy one soccer card. What card do you choose?
I would have to be particularly boring. I've just gone from oddball to going to like a really quite obvious plain answer, but mine would have to be it'd have to be a Messi rookie. I
So
think it would.
a top grade at 20K, I would assume.
Yeah, so I've had a quick look at Messi rookies recently. I know that the BGS 9 does about 12K, but a PSA 10 does something like stupid numbers after
Yeah.
that. So I'm assuming a PSA 9 would be somewhere around 20K.
Okay, talking about the Mega Crack 7 on Bs, right?
That's it. That's the one, the 2004. Yeah.
Yeah. You save your thoughts on the reason why you are choosing that, because like I said, we go back to the question. So yeah, shoot the question number 2.
Yeah. Okay. So for question number 2, it is pretty much the same question. However, I've put a bit of a spin on it. So if I gave you 20K, but you have to spend it on 5 items,
Oof.
it doesn't matter what the costs are of each item. So let's say you could go with 4 £1,000 or 1000K cards. Sorry, not 1000K, 4 1K cards, and then you could go for a big 15K, or you could split it up evenly. What 5 cards would you go for?
All right, that's a really difficult question, especially because if I just had to target one, will be much more much more easy. But okay, let me think about 5 cards that again that are around 5K, just for fun. I would probably try to buy a Messi sticker PSA 9. I feel like those are between 7K and 5K. Probably I need to get a little bit likely to get one, but I think that's a great rookie for Messi. I would go with another Messi. I would go with Panini Travel Gold for Messi. I believe again is more than 5K, but if I'm a little bit likely, maybe I can find one around those, especially in China at certain auction houses.
Yeah,
so
I know you like the treble set.
I need 3 more. This is honestly quite difficult.
Mm.
Okay, another interesting one will be I have a Van Basten rookie. But I would love to upgrade to a better grade. And I think 5K probably can buy me maybe a PSA 5, PSA 6. I'm not sure, but around those lines. I'm thinking about goats to be totally transparent with you, because I really like to go for those guys. 5K, I would try to buy a PSA 3, BVG 4, something like that for Cruyff Palirex, another upgrade.
Yeah.
And I need another one. Cristiano Ronaldo 5K. Actually, Cristiano Ronaldo 5K, I know because James, good friend of the channel, told me that at the National, one seller was trying to sell a Cristiano Ronaldo Mega Cracks BGS 8 for 5K, which I thought was quite cheap. So yeah, that will be my final one.
Yeah, I mean, you said that was going to be a hard, but you absolutely smashed that. I think that was really, really good. I can't fault you with your choices there, Marco van Basten, Messi, Cruyff, and Ronaldo.
Yeah. and I end up splitting a little bit pre-modern, modern, ultra modern. So no, but was a fun question, but still a difficult one. If I had 1 hour to think, probably the answer would be a little bit different. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So question number 3. I know you love to prospect in new kids, the new players appearing on the top leagues. So my question is actually quite simple. Top 3 young players you believe in the long run. I know new kids are always very volatile. It's super difficult to know the future. But if you had to choose 3 names, and one new rule: put Mbappe and Lewandowski, because I think those are a little bit unfair, since most people already are aware of them. 3 guys.
3 guys. I would go all midfielders. Funnily enough, I actually wouldn't go forwards. I would go Bellingham, Foden, and Pedri. Would be my top 3 picks.
Actually, we can debate about that, because I agree a lot with 2 of your choices, and I don't agree with one. But we save that for later. So yeah, it's your turn. Send me a question.
2 of the guys are English, so I mean it helps with the prices. But yeah, I'm interested to see which one that you wouldn't choose. There's quite a few. There's quite a few wonder kids to choose from actually, but they're the three that came to the top of my head.
No, and by the way,
Come to my head.
I think all three are super talented. It's not that I think are bad choices. I just there is one guy there that I'm not sure.
Okay, I think I might know who it is. Right, question 3. What's your most recent lesson / takeaway that you've learned as a sports cards content creator?
Ooh, that I need to be more careful in the sense that actually I ended up talking about this in the last podcast, but I feel fine to talk again. I did a lot of videos that I said the undervalued cards, stuff like that, and of course I'll always share my thoughts, and I think that's the only thing people can ask me. But in the other end, I also feel like my community is small, but I honestly feel people trust in me quite a lot. At least it's the feeling I get from my followers. So I need to be more careful because I'm wrong so many times, and all content creators are wrong, and people need to be aware of this. That I really need to be more careful if I talk about something. I basically need to have done a lot of research to feel comfortable putting a take out. But yeah, I also don't feel most content creators care about this, being honest with you. but
No,
I care a lot. So.
I would have to agree with you. I think your kind of moral compass prevents you sometimes from giving people advice. I think it's very dangerous to do that. That's what one thing that I've always admired about your channel is the intro that you do, where you say this isn't financial advice, and you kind of explain that at the very beginning.
But then I actually think me doing that puts even more pressure on me. Because it's almost,
maybe it does.
Because people think, oh, he's saying not financial advice. Okay, now I really want to know what he's talking about. So if I was starting my YouTube, now I need to do the introduction because people are expecting that. But if I was starting my channel, I may still say something in the middle of the video, you guys do your own research, because I really think people need to be aware of that. But I may actually change that, because I feel like people connect me a lot with financial advice for some reason. And I don't like that, but it is what it is, basically. One thing that I would say is, even when I'm wrong, at the time I'm recording, I believe I'm right, and that's what, that's the best I can do. So yeah.
Yeah.
Question number 4. I feel like United Kingdom, after United States, after America, is the biggest player on the market right now. And even my views on YouTube reflect that. Most of my viewers are from America. Then the second most, are actually from UK. Because of that, I always believe, and I honestly preach this quite a lot, then Premier League legends like Thierry Henry, Frank Lampard, or even legends that are from your region should have a premium on the market. So I'm already sharing my take with you, but do you agree with me? And a couple of thoughts on this.
Yeah, 100%. So just because someone's English, as almost like in the Premier League, when someone's English, they have a kind of a tax on them. They're going to be a little bit more expensive because Premier League teams have to fill the amount of Englishmen that are part of their squad. It's a kind of a very similar thing in sports cards. If you've got someone that's English, you might pay that little bit premium. Or what I will say as well is that people are maybe a little bit more fickle or a bit more trying to think of the right terminology, but their hopes maybe lie a little bit further with the English players. So they have a kind of a sense of magic about them, or they have this aura of them being an England international, specifically the England internationals, I would say.
I agree with you.
Maybe think they're a little bit better than they are.
No, and another thing that, again, we should save this, but I think it's important to add, is that we saw the same with American players, right? That Pulisic is very, but I actually, so in general, I would say I do not agree with premiums that are irrational, that is because of related with feelings, basically. But in the other end, I actually understand much more the premium for Premier League legends than the American premium, even though I still understand the American premium. Because look, the reality is you guys are very likely. Premier League is the best league in the world. So many legends. So I mean, is the league up? My favorite league is the Portuguese league because of my team. But after that, I love to watch Premier League, and I think most people share the same thing. And even in China, Asia in general, but let's say China, they love Premier League there. So if they start getting more into cards, because I really believe in this type of stuff. I feel like players like Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard, Didier Drogba, all of those big names. Roy Keane, a player that I know you like quite a lot, they can gain a lot of momentum in the future.
Yeah, and I think there is so you made a good point there with the US men's national team. You as well as people investing in those cards, there's going to be in that country more collectors. So naturally, if people are, let's say, bidding on a card and you've got 4 collectors, it's an English player, they might be in an England shirt, same with the US men's national team, you're going to have more competition in terms of buying a card. So I think that there's an element of that as well, especially with the US men's national team. I'm sure there's probably big collectors that will never sell those items, but there's probably quite a few of them in America collecting the Clint Dempseys and
I would agree with you, but the thing that I see in the American market, and you can tell me if you agree with me, is they don't care that much about old legends for them. They really care about this new generation. And to be fair, this new generation seems quite good. I mean, Pulisic, again, is not a top player, but he's a good player. Reina seems like could be a very good player. But what scares me, and this is why I was saying I understand if, for example, you are buying players from the Premier League because you really have a connection with them. But there is a big difference. Is Roy Keane, for example, was a legendary player, and I'm not sure if Pulisic, Reina, when everything is done, will be in that level. And the long run, that will matter a lot. That's why. For me, again, I know this may be a stupid comparison, but if you can buy a Pulisic or if you can buy a Wayne Rooney, right now maybe the Pulisic can even give you a stronger return because of all the hype, but long run you'll be much better with the Wayne Rooney, because for me it's one of the best Premier League legends. And I know I'm going a little bit off of the conversation, but I'm just trying to share with you why I believe a lot on Premier League legends and why I understand that tax that certain legends can have. For new kids, that's a little bit more debatable because it's the same thing. Let's say Sancho. I mean, probably seems like a very good player, but actually a better example, Rashford. Rashford was one of was a big odd prospect in the market 3 years ago. Right now, I feel like people don't even talk about him anymore. So for new players, and I guess this logic goes also for Americans, I think people need to be careful. It's nothing new. I think everyone at this point should know this. But the sweet spot for me, at least, is buying players like. Again, Roy Keane, Frank Lampard, all of the legends that I believe a lot in the long run, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of the new kids that have never seen these, there'll be the argument that some of the new kids that have never seen these players play will say, I hear a lot on things like apps like TikTok, and I posed this question to an audience when I did a live the other day. I said, do you consider players that you've never ever seen play football as the greatest of all time, or would you put those above players that you've watched play football? And it was interesting to see that some people would not put Pele, Maradona, Beckenbauer, whoever in their top list of football players because they'd never actually seen them play or they weren't in their era. So instead, they would just rank other people that were in their era. And I think that's quite an interesting conversation to have, because I'm obsessed with vintage. And I know Joe on the previous podcast talks a lot about pre-war and stuff.
You are
which
correct.
Is really, really interesting. But not everyone that gets into the hobby has that love for vintage either. I think sometimes for the younger people, it does take for you to get into the hobby a little bit more to kind of fall in love with vintage. But some people don't touch it.
No, I totally get what you are trying to say. And let me say what I feel about that, honestly, because I have it's almost a what take on that front.
Yeah.
Look, if you ask me, was Pelé better than Maradona? I have no idea, because I feel like I can look at stats, but then stats, for example, for Maradona don't tell anything, since Maradona was a very, in terms of skills, was out of this world.
Yeah.
But then I start thinking about this. My goats are Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi. And it's not that I think they are better than Maradona or Pelé. It's just those are the two guys I saw, so I can evaluate. I have a better idea of what I'm talking about. If you ask me, what is your top 10? 100% Pelé and Maradona will be there, and Beckenbauer, probably Garrincha, all of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
But I have Maradona cards, I have all of that stuff, but I actually, and this is probably your take, I really enjoy collecting players that is not even that I saw, but that I grew up watching. For example, Ronaldinho is my favorite player because when I was a kid, Ronaldinho was the best player in the world, was the player that when I was playing with my friends, I wanted to be, So can you tell me, but don't you think Maradona or Cruyff are even better investments or better players than Ronaldinho? Well, probably, but the reality is, for me, Ronaldinho is special. So I think this is, like you said, a very complex topic, honestly, because I also think saying, "Oh no, that's stupid. You also need to collect vintage." I also don't think that's the correct answer. I think understanding demographics, understanding what you saw, what I saw, what this generation will saw in the future, that can play a huge role when it comes to investing your money. Because the problem with vintage, and this is why I believe this goes into a hot take, is if you tell me Maradona, Cruyff, Pelé. Well, I think those names, even new kids, they are probably, maybe not Cruyff, but at least Pelé and Maradona, they are aware. But when you start going very niche into the vintage market, I'm not saying is a bad buy, honestly, but I think you really need to do a lot of research is this a player that was a legend or is this a historical player? Because I prefer to invest in a historical player, because legends, there is a lot of legends, a complex topic, honestly.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And by the way, it's something that I don't have an answer.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I could talk all day about, I think.
But actually, I guess there is one question left. But what do you think? Do you also think that demographics will play a huge role on the market for?
Yeah.
Because even 10 years from now, maybe new kids don't care about Messi, There is also that scenario.
Yeah, I mean, and there's something magic for me about collecting the old players, even though I didn't see them. I've always found old things just really, really interesting. But maybe from people that grew up, I have to be a little bit careful because I'm quite young. So I have a habit of calling vintage or pre-modern stuff, or some people might even say modern for the 90s. I end up calling it vintage by accident and then showing my age. And a lot of people are like, that's not vintage. I was 20 when that was a thing, when I was collecting those stickers. So I have to be a little bit careful. But yeah, in terms of vintage, there's definitely something magic about it. What you said about the kind of the kids knowing the legends, I will say that if you tend to be into football, not always, but sometimes you'd be into playing FIFA as well. And I think FIFA are very good about icon cards and things like that people will know a lot of players like Garrincha that are on the game. But it always interests me when you have players like Platini, who obviously had all his dealings with the FA, fell out of the FA, so isn't going to be on the game. a lot of people don't know him because potentially they've not seen him grow up. They don't know how good he was at Juventus, for France, and he's not necessarily in the mainstream media talking about in recent times anyway.
Yeah,
I
no.
think his ban's up actually next year, but yeah, I mean he's not on the FIFA game, so it's just quite interesting to see that a lot of the younger people that you speak to, they know all the players on FIFA, but they don't necessarily know some of the other legends that were maybe on older versions of FIFA or whatever else. But
Then
yeah,
do you want to know actually a funny example that almost triggers me? I don't have kids yet, but I have
yeah,
friends. I have friends with kids, and sometimes when I'm talking with them, I always ask, "So what's your favorite player?" And for this new generation, it's crazy how many of them answer Mbappe, and I
yeah,
start thinking, you can see a shift already because for me it was Ronaldinho, for probably a generation, and even Cristiano Ronaldo. But now
yeah,
this generation, oh no. Actually, one kid told, "Oh, Messi is old, Cristiano Ronaldo is old, Mbappe is the best in the world." And to be fair, Mbappe at this point is probably better than Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, but you start seeing that, okay, new idols basically, and
yeah.
everything is a cycle in the end. So, but
I know.
this is a very complex topic because it's not that vintage is bad. No, vintage is amazing actually. Pre-modern is amazing, but modern can still be amazing. You just need to target the correct things.
Yeah.
So I believe you have two questions more for me, right? Or
Yep.
one?
So I've got two, I think. So question number 4, I've got, have you ever been to a card show? If so, which one? And if not, would you go to one?
Okay, card show related with soccer cards, never. In Europe, I know in UK that there is something, but in the rest of Europe,
Yeah, I mean, it's
you don't have anything basically. So
in terms of,
I'm sorry, I never went to a card show, but I played Magic the Gathering for a lot of years. So I went to tournaments that there is a lot of people selling cards. I'm not sure if that counts, but would I go for one? 100% is something that I really want to do next year. This year I end up not going to the national. Was very difficult for me, but next year I feel comfortable to say that there is a likely scenario I will be in America to the national. Hey guys, a quick pause on the video. Hope everything is well. If you are enjoying this talk with Dan, please leave a like. It means a lot. It's a good way to show support to me and to Dan, because Dan also ended up spending a good amount of time with us. And I thought this was honestly a great conversation. Before we continue with the conversation, let me share a couple of things with you. Let's start actually with my Discord. We are more than 700 members right now. And I believe until the end of the year, there is a very likely scenario will be 1K, maybe even more. So I would love if you want to join my Discord. I think it's an amazing place to learn and share. I'm trying to grow the community there, to make the community interact more, and you can be part of that. It's totally free to join. Like I said, it's an amazing place to learn and to share. And if you want to talk with me or other experienced collectors, that's also a great place to interact. The other thing is actually my Patreon. I have a Patreon community that basically the main reason is to support what I'm doing on the channel. You guys know that YouTube does not pay well at all, but I try to provide a lot of value there. So I put exclusive video every Wednesday and I put the extra audio on Saturday. The extra audio is more me talking about the market, what I'm doing on the market. On Wednesday, the video is actually a Q&A. So in the last couple of months, I ended up answering more than 300 questions, which I think is quite crazy to think about. If you joined right now, and this is something that sometimes I feel like people do not understand, you have more than 60 Q&As to watch. So if you already watch everything on YouTube, there is a lot of content on Patreon that you need to catch up basically. So Link below the video. If you want to be part of the Patreon community, you need to pay around $10. If $10 is a lot of money to you, please don't feel pressure to join. Like I said, there is still a lot of free content on YouTube, but at least consider to join the Discord since it's totally free. So both links below the video. Leave a like, subscribe, all the good stuff, and let's continue with the conversation.
Yeah, I think I've got potentially the national written down, but I just wanted to see if you'd say it first, because I think I'd assume that that's kind of the obvious one for anyone that's kind of never been to a card show. I mean, I must say the ones in the UK are growing at a rapid pace and are really, really good. But I think for a serious sports cards collector or investor, whatever box you put yourself in, I think the national is a
and the thing is, I don't even have high expectations to make crazy deals there. I mean, I'm going just for the social experience almost, just to meet people, to see a big show the biggest show in America, actually, and that's it. I'm not even actually I have cards in the vault in America, so but I don't have great expectation in terms of buying vintage pre-modern, because that's what I collect the most. And I feel like if I go to a show like that, there is a likely scenario big part of the soccer card market there will be modern, and I don't collect a lot, basically. So
I think you'd be surprised. There's quite a lot of dealers there, but also the trade nights look absolutely massive. I have seen some cards where I'm like, almost like, kind of European issues that are really rare, and you're kind of almost surprised to see that they've gone all the way over to the US. But there's a lot of big vintage cards in the US. So
I mean, that will be a nice plus. What I'm trying to say is I have low expectations. If I got surprised,
it's probably best to have low expectations.
Exactly, because I also have good friends on the community that they tell me, maybe not the national, to be fair, but they go to shows and is mostly ultra modern. And if you try to buy vintage, sometimes you don't find even anything relevant, basically. So yeah. My last question for you is your unpopular opinion on the hobby, your hot take, basically.
Yeah, I didn't actually have this one written down, or I thought you might ask this question. But considering we've spoken about him, I think Pulisic is the most overrated player in the hobby. And I'll die on my sword saying that. I genuinely think he's not a bad player, but in terms of his big cards, in terms of the amount of money that's being thrown at Pulisic at the moment, unless you're a US men's national team, I mean, if you're in the UK or in Europe as an investment, I don't know why you're buying Pulisic, in my opinion, but unpopular. So,
okay, I think we automatically get 10 dislikes because of that. But and you are not the first person saying this actually on this podcast. And the answer, my perspective on this is, the most overrated, I don't know for sure, but I agree is probably overrated. And the reason is, when you try to match quality versus price, does not make a lot of sense.
That's exactly the base of my argument, is the amount of high, or the price of the high end compared to the player,
the quality, right? So the quality, the price does not match the quality, and that's a huge problem if you are a very rational person. But I also think, normally I agree with you that quality, price, they should be very connected. But I think you have to add another component to Pulisic, and I have 0 Pulisic cards, by the way. But I think you have to add a demand that's not normal, basically. Again, long runs scares me a lot. People investing very heavy on Pulisic. Short term, mid term. Look, I disagree with this, but let's say I believe you guys play America in the first game on the World Cup, right? Let's say for some reason Pulisic scores 1 goal and they win 1-0. His cards will make a 2x, 3x overnight. So if you think about Pulisic is the type of player, again, I don't agree, but the upside can be crazy, honestly, because
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
the Captain America,
yeah.
is
He's
the
the
guys
captain. He's
that
going to
they,
carry them.
yeah.
But
So
yeah, no, I do agree, and I'm more than happy to be proven wrong. I think it would be interesting if I was proven wrong, but obviously you have got the World Cup is in America, so that's home turf. So I'm assuming people are
exactly.
probably waiting until then, and then I'd imagine his prices go up. But long term, like you say, we're talking long term. I mean, Clint Dempsey was a great player. I'm a Fulham fan. I love Clint Dempsey, but what if he? I mean, he was huge for the US men's national team at the time. I know they didn't have the young talent that they do now, but yeah, that I mean
Uh,
that isn't the one I've written down. So, but it
uh,
is it is one I do believe.
if I had to bet money, I think you are correct. Long run,
Hmm.
actually, I feel very comfortable that you are correct. Long run, because I hope people don't take this the wrong way, but I also don't think Pulisic will be a legend in the game.
No,
So I think you are correct. And the thing that scares me the most is America. The America is actually producing a lot of talent.
yeah.
So maybe there will be a new Pulisic next
Well,
year. And
I was about to make that exact point in that I'm not trying to be. It's almost coming from it's almost a positive on America that I can see
exactly,
the talent that they're coming through with at the moment. I can see how young kids scholarships seem to now be a lot about soccer. And don't get me wrong, I think the way that America handles sport and scholarships and the way that they do their university degrees and everything, I think is unreal. I wish we had something like that in the UK, or Europe, but it's unheard of here. But I just think that there's so much talent that is yet to come out of the US, which is almost inevitable. I agree. I don't think he'll be seen as a legend in the same way that some of the best players of basketball or American football have been in the past.
different levels in my perspective.
Yeah,
But
100%.
if I'm an American fan, I think I would be very happy with the team right now, with the potential of the
Yeah,
team, because I honestly believe America have been doing a great job in terms of almost prospecting new kids to one day
yeah,
be playing
yeah,
for the national team. So look, I don't know if America will be top 5, top 10 team in the world in the future, but I think they have a great future on us. And
yeah,
this World Cup, I'm not sure, being honest, but the next World Cup, I, I feel they especially playing at home, they can be a strong team. Winning, that's a long shot to be fair, but
yeah.
yeah, I mean, great job. Long run, I also do not believe a lot in Pulisic, to be fair with you.
No, 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 absolutely. And the young kids they're making their ways over to Europe as well. I don't believe the MLS is ever going to be a top league, in my opinion. Um, Not in the way that I think Europe just owns football at the moment. Even South America produced some absolutely unbelievable players, but the best of them are playing in Europe. But however, you look at this,
Look,
look at the size of the US. I mean, compared to someone like a small country like England, I mean, even like small country like Portugal, in comparison to the US, there's a lot of people over there, and their scholarship system is extremely good. They're sort of the money that's in sport over in the US. I think it's inevitable that
I
they'll
agree.
do well.
And the soccer have been growing quite a lot there. So
Yeah,
I honestly believe it's a question of time until the US start having
yeah,
a team that people say, "Oh no, this is an incredible team." Actually, again, winning is a different. Portugal have been having great teams, never won World Cup, so it's not
yeah.
like that happens. England don't win World Cup for I don't even know how many years at this point, right?
Yeah,
So
1966 was the last time you won the Euros not that long ago, but yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
You also won the Euros, not with the
Well,
men's, but
yeah, yeah. The weekend just gone. Yeah. What was I going to say? I was going to make a point there, but then I forgot what it was.
is the
Oh yeah. One thing that's really interesting with sports cards on the kind of the US point, Leeds United have obviously they have an American manager and they brought in a lot of young American talent. I thought it was really interesting that I knew a lot of the players that they were bringing in. So I knew Adams. I knew Brendan Aronson from the sort of prospecting thing in terms of knowing sports cards, knowing rookies. And a lot of my friends that are quite big into football were just like, who on earth is this? Leeds are signing nobodies. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Talk about nobodies. These are good players. And it's funny that like I know of these players because I watch, I follow a lot of the US men national teams just out have it now, because if I follow American YouTubers and people that are on social media, they do talk about them a lot. So yeah, that I found quite interesting recently, is that I know.
But in the other end, it's good to have friends that they don't know those guys, because
yeah,
I feel that sometimes we get caught into a bubble, you know, in the sense that
yeah,
okay, I collect cards, everyone knows this player. Well, maybe not everyone knows that player, you know, because you are prospecting on
yeah,
him. I remember when Haaland was breaking to in Dortmund and etc. And I was talking with my friends, look, this guy potentially could be the next Ballon d'Or. And most of them, oh, he's good, but they did not know what I knew, because I was grinding his market for so long since I saw the news related with him being a potential. But most people don't. Most people start paying attention to Haaland when Haaland scored a trick on Champions League, when Haaland
yeah.
starts scoring every game. But us, card collectors, we knew about Haaland since Salzburg, you know, so sometimes it's good to understand that our bubble is not the world, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even Pulisic, I mean, I was talking with a friend the other day, a friend that don't collect cards, and I said, oh, the Pulisic, this guy have a lot of hype, and he told me, really? Pulisic seems like a bench player for Chelsea.
Yeah,
In his mind, he's just another player there, but since I'm so engaged with the hobby, even if, like I said to you, I disagree with the American narrative, but Pulisic is almost a figure, you know. Pulisic is kind of the man almost, because of all the narratives around him. But yeah, most people in Portugal, not, I would say not most people, because I don't know everyone in Portugal, but people
yeah.
that my friend in Portugal, they maybe know the name, but they don't know a lot about the player. So
Just to go back to your original question, because I did go on a massive tangent there. This is a kind of an unpopular one, but it's also it sounds really obvious, but I think you'll make sense of it. So I've said this before, and people would just be like, "Oh, what are you on about?" But I've written down, people think the cards they have are way more expensive than they are, and that they think that cards that other people have are way cheaper than they are.
100%.
Yeah, it sounds weird to say, and it sounds really, really simple, but that's one thing that does irk me a little bit about the hobby, is that people almost refuse to look at comps, or won't look at comps because it's their own card. But then if they're in a conversation with the dealer, I'm staring at comps, I'm picking the lowest comps, and it kind of that does annoy me a little bit. And I think some people kind of grow out of it quite quickly, but other people still just, their prices just don't make any sense at all. And I think there's just this element of, I own this card and I've picked this card because this is who I chose as a prospect, or this is how I believe the player to be.
Okay. No, I mean, I agree with that, honestly. I also think when you put a card on eBay, PLCC, whatever, for buy it now, and if you put the card 2x, 3x more than the real market value, that's sometimes a good indication that you don't want to sell. You know, I think you are almost, okay, if someone pays this, I let it go, but in reality, you don't want to sell. And I also agree that some people don't have a good sense of the market sometimes, because it's something that I actually say a lot, that people should always be buying and selling, honestly. I believe in this more and more and more every day, because if you just buy, and there is a lot of people in the hobby that they just buy, look, and that's great if you have the money to just keep buying and not selling. But I think selling is important to have a notion of reality sometimes, because the card you think is 1K, maybe it's $500, you know, and I think with that, you even start making smart decisions in the future because you understand, okay, I need to be a little bit more patient on this one because if I try to resell this in the future, I may not get what I'm expecting. But if you just buy, you start having almost a wrong reality in front of your eyes, you know. So that's why always buying and selling, in my perspective, is important because and you start understanding almost certain trends on the market. Look, I bought a lot of vintage, but maybe if I'm going to shows in America, I need a little bit more modern, you know. Maybe I bought too much modern, then I need some pre-modern to old long run. You start to have a better notion of reality. And I believe in this more and more every day. People need to be buying and selling all the time. And that keeps you up with the market, which I think is another extra plus on this, you know.
Yeah, you made so many good points there. I think definitely when I first started, when I first started in sports cars in general, I bought one car just to hold, and then it was a real long-term hold. But then I started to get a bit more into it and buying, and I wasn't really doing much selling at all. And because I was such an amateur, or I was new to the hobby and I didn't quite understand, I hadn't had much experience in investing in anything really at all. I wasn't into stocks and shares, crypto, whichever. I think crypto was really much around then. I mean, it was, but it wasn't mainstream. But I did all this buying and just assumed that everything goes up, which is just it's the worst assumption you can have, is that things, you will make losses and you'll make loads of them, and that's fine. But as long as your gains make it worth it, then by all means. But I think your comment about buying and selling is so true. And then, like you said, with the trends, like, you start to learn, okay, if someone's in the Premier League and then they go over to the MLS, their cards will go down because in the UK anyway, because no one's going to watch the MLS, or they don't follow it as much. They're not going to be unlikely to be in the Champions League, and they won't be in the Champions League. And you kind of got all these things that you can kind of think about. Or I think one thing that I learned is that sometimes if a player plays for a country that isn't going to be in the Euros or isn't going to be in the World Cup, because that country isn't necessarily the best, doesn't have the best national team, but you've got that one player that's really good for that team. They have to pretty much be outstanding for their club, or they have to be in a league that everyone is watching. Otherwise, it is going to be a little bit of a risky buy. I think George Weah kind of comes to mind, but maybe at the time when he was playing, people were buying him because amazing, he was great for AC Milan. But I'd imagine that if he went and played for Toronto or someone over in the MLS, his price would probably naturally go down because you wouldn't see the national team football maybe as much. And
no, I mean, great points. And actually, I have a funny story related with this. A couple of months ago on my Discord, one of my members there told to the entire community, oh, I sold stuff on PWCC, and was the first time me selling stuff. Everything went much down than I was expecting. And the reality is that was a shock of reality, you know, in the sense that no, things went about right. In your mind, you really thought they ended up being a little bit more expensive, because it's very rare to find someone that have a car that is 1K, actually 1K, and thinks it's $500. Normally, the person that has a car that is 1K thinks it's 2K, you know. And to finish my thoughts on this is, you need to start to understanding what you like versus what other people like. And what you like sometimes is not what the market like, and your price does not reflect a reality, because we all have confirmation bias. A good example of this could be grading. So you send a card to PSA. Look, a lot of times I think those will be 9s and 10s. Well, the reality ended up being 7 and 8s. Why? Because I have some bias that I think my cards are in better condition than they really are. And that's why we pay top dollar for PSA, SCC, because apart from authenticating the card, etc., they also don't have a bias that we have, you know, so they can actually know this card is a 5, is a 6. And if you look at the card, you probably, oh, no, this is a 7 and 8, because you try to always make your things better than they are. And I do that, you do that. Everyone watching this video probably does that. So
Absolutely.
I think you have one more question, right?
Yeah. The last question I have for you is, what has been your favorite purchase to date? So it could be because of the price, or it could be because of the story in terms of how you obtained it, or it could be just a card or sticker that you've always wanted to own and you finally owned it.
Favorite purchase. Difficult one. I would go with a recent one, because I have a funny story related with that card. My favorite purchase was Paulirex Cruyff 58, not 58, I'm sorry, 68, Campeões Europeus Football, the most popular rookie for Cruyff, I would say. I bought the PSA 2 for 1.9k. And the reason I'm saying this is not my best buy, but the buy I enjoyed the most was, at one point that card was selling, a PSA 2 was selling for 9k, I believe even 10k. And I made a video, not sure if it was a video or Instagram, but whatever, not super relevant. I made some comments related that I said, I think that's too much for that card, honestly. I think people are getting crazy. Look, people need to be careful. Is low pop right now. And to be fair, is a card with strong rarity, but more will appear on the market, because when you see a big sale for one card, does not matter almost if the card have great fundamentals or not. If it's a one-of-one, I understand it's different, but normally more will appear on the market. And I was totally correct on that. A lot of Cruyffs end up appearing in the market in the last couple of months. More supply makes prices go down. I mean, there is no one should be surprised by that. And I thought was quite funny that, and at the time people said that I was wrong on that. Cruyff needs to be expensive, crazy takes, honestly. So I thought was funny that I was criticizing Cruyff at 10k, and right now I'm buying Cruyff at 80% less. So instead of me telling those guys that I was correct, my actions end up speaking, because I bought the card at less than 2k that people paid 9k not that long time ago. So
wow, that's quite the drop. But that also
I mean,
seems mental to me that one grade from a 1 to a 2 had that big of a gap. That to me just seems like there needs to be a correction there, because if you've got a nice looking 1 compared to a 2, it almost seems definitely worth it to go and resubmit that 1 to try and get that 2 for the extra 9k. Yes, it's going to cost you maybe a little bit, but it seems like it'd be worth the gamble.
But then what I said was, I bought the PSA 2 for let's say 2k, and a PSA 2 also was selling a 9k. So I'm not talking about the different grades, actually the same grade. But you are correct in one thing. I actually think it's bananas that people pay much more for a PSA 2 than a PSA 1. Let me explain you why. Not all the time, but in my opinion, most of the time, the difference between a PSA 1 and a PSA 2 is not relevant. It's about the grade. If you get a PSA 2, normally, especially for vintage, there is some glue, there is maybe some paper loss, and sometimes I see PSA 1s that look much better than PSA 2s. And I also see PSA 2s that look much better than PSA 1s, of course, but it is very random. The PSA 1, PSA 2 grade, in my perspective, is the one that is where you find the... I personally, I don't pay a premium. I go for eye appealing. If a PSA 1 looks better than a 2, I buy a PSA 1. And I honestly believe more people will understand that. Again, PSA 9, PSA 10, you can also say sometimes it's a bit crazy to see the premium. But I honestly understand a little bit better the PSA 10 premium, even if I also don't like the PSA 10 premium. I understand a little bit better than the PSA 1, PSA 2, because the PSA 1, PSA 2, 100%, you crack 100 cards, will not say all of them, but big part of them will change the grade. A 2 will be a 1 will be a 1.5. So I don't get the premium between those two grades, honestly, unless I appealing.
Agree.
So let's go back to the first question, and a couple of those we already end up having, I would say, a longer conversation. But the first question was related with content creators in soccer. I'm a content creator. You are also a content creator with more experience than me on YouTube, actually. And we saw, at least I assume you also saw, a lot of people coming and go. And I think it's normal. I think soccer was quite hot at one point in time. For example, I was getting more views at one point in time that I'm getting now. And I think most content creators probably share the same thing, since the market is a bit down. And that probably unmotivates people. But I think is important to stay on YouTube on this moment, because I understand the market maybe is not what we expected 1 year ago, 2 years ago, or at least that big part of the market expected. But more than ever, I feel like content creators should keep pushing, because I think this is just the start. This is a down cycle, but one day there will be another up cycle. And I think people that stay on YouTube will be the winners. Going a little bit maybe out of topic, but yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I completely agree with that. I mean, there's so many variables that I'm seeing at the moment why I think that soccer cards, especially in the UK and Europe, will become really, 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 really popular. I think it seems like never before have Panini and Topps be consistently releasing all these sorts of sets as frequently as they ever have been. And that seems really, really new. Obviously, we know that the Topps Chrome's been around since whenever it was, 2016, 2017, maybe earlier, if you correct me if I'm wrong. But it's just the amount of sets that are coming out, the amount of deals that they're doing with different types of players so that they can bring out curated sets, and all these sorts of things that they're doing at the moment is just lifting and lifting and lifting the hobby. And like you say, I think people that are in sports cards content creators now are going to be the first people that are lifted up, because if someone goes to YouTube and they type in soccer cards, or they type in soccer cards podcast or vintage soccer cards or something like that, they're going to look for the people that are probably there with the most views or the most subscribers and that sort of thing. So I think that time is to come, and I think if you're starting now is the best time to start. But if you've already started, I think I think we'll all do really well, I think, out of YouTube in time. And
yeah,
as well.
I really think this is just a different cycle, a different time in the market. But things go up and down all the time. And look, I understand macroeconomics are not great in the world right now, and that's a huge deal. I mean, in the end, cards are what they are. They don't impact your life, and you need money to things that actually impact your life. But I feel like that history tends to tell us that look, when things are down is honestly when you should be grinding even more, when you should be taking for example, I'm not sure if we are at the bottom of the market. I have no idea. And everyone that tells you this is the bottom of the market, they are lying, because we don't know. That's impossible. But I've been buying actually more than ever, to be fair. And I feel like one day what I'm buying will be giving me a return of 2x, 3x, which does not mean a lot, because a lot of stuff that I buy actually don't even sell. But the reality is, I'm buying cards right now that 1 year ago, 2 years ago, I thought, oh, maybe I will never afford a card like that at this point. And they are down so much that, guess what? Actually, I can enter this again. Let's say I paid around 2K for the Cruyff. 2K is a lot of money. But the reality is, when you compare with 10K, it's completely different. So another good example, I think a BGS 8 Ronaldo, at one point in time, the Mega Cracks, was selling for 16K. Don't exactly quote me on this, but around that. Right now, you can buy it for 5K. I mean, if you really believe in the market, look, the pop for Cruyff is around 50 at PSA. It's not a lot. The pop for Cristiano Ronaldo, of course, is a little bit higher, since we are talking more about the modern, pre-modern card. But Cristiano Ronaldo on Mega Cracks is still around 200 copies. That does not seem a lot for a player like Cristiano Ronaldo with only 2 rookies. So, by the way, I'm not pushing the narrative on Cruyff and Cristiano Ronaldo because everyone knows those two. What I'm really trying to say is, if you believe in the market, I think there is so much opportunities right now. And this logic goes to content creators, to people investing, to everyone. Right now is the time to be grinding the market, because you will miss this market. You may not like it now, but 1 year from now, maybe 2 years, maybe 3, I don't know, you will miss this market. At least, again, I believe a lot in the market, so I have a lot of bias, but I really think this is a market we all should be enjoying.
I agree. I couldn't agree more.
So what was the first question for me? Because actually end up forgetting about.
The first question for you was about the oddball item.
Okay, so like I said, I don't have a lot, but I think this is a great question for you, not for me. So
I mean, a couple of that I mentioned. I have a 10-pin bowling card of someone that I watched a documentary on. That was quite an interesting one.
Pinball.
10-pin bowling. Yeah. Do you know
what is that?
You know where you have the skittles at the end of a runway and you bowl a ball.
Oh, bowling, right? Basically.
Bowling, yeah, bowling.
Oh, okay. No.
But we have, yeah. I mean, it's probably more regularly used as bowling, but then we also have bowls. So I say bowling, because I think it says that on the card as well. I think it maybe is an American term, but it does make sense because there's obviously 10 pins at the bottom. What else? Yeah, I bought recently a Shaun White snowboarding rookie card.
Okay.
That was quite interesting. I like my extreme sports. I'm going after the Tony Hawk rookie card as well.
Yeah, I remember seeing a video of you trying to get one.
Yeah, try to open up a few packs. I got a couple BMXs, which was quite good.
Do you have Kelly Slater, the surf guy?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I've got a feeling he's in that set, but I can't remember if he.
I don't know anything. I'm asking
if I have one or not.
Okay.
I have to double check. I think he is in that set, but I don't think I pulled one. But I'll double check.
But actually, let me actually ask one, because I'm really curious about this.
Yeah.
We saw soccer exploding, F1 exploding, even tennis to a certain point, I think, and even cricket. But there is still a lot of sports that don't have a lot of momentum behind them. The people not talking about, I guess, bowling could be a good example. But actually, I was thinking about one. I have 0 cards, by the way, but I would love to know your opinion, because I feel like you are more comfortable in this market than me. Cycling, because I feel like cycling is huge in Europe, especially in France. They have the biggest, the Tour. Do you think there is an opportunity on a market like that?
Yeah. So there are stickers at the moment. You could collect cycling stickers. There's a player called Eddie Merckx, which I think is MER. I want to say KX. But yeah, if you Google Eddie Merckx, no matter how you spell it, you'll be able to find it. I think it's a Calciatori sticker, does really, really, really well. I would argue that's probably the best sticker to buy in terms of cycling. Okay. I know that people like myself have done a bit of research into his stickers without actually having any interest in cycling whatsoever. So he would potentially be an interesting buy. But yeah, I mean, there's quite a few that haven't really ever got cards, but then there's also some that have got cards but maybe haven't been propped up by the right types of companies. So we know about the Net Pro set. Net Pro, I haven't seen anything from Net Pro since those old tennis cards.
You collect UFC, right?
Yeah, UFC. Yeah, so it's interesting to see how big UFC and WWE has now got since Panini have taken over. Like you say, Topps is interested in taking tennis.
Yeah,
I'd like to golf.
I feel like these two markets, the UFC and WWE, they've been growing quite a lot. Yeah. Especially the new guy from England, Paddy Pimblett, I believe is the name. There is so much people talking about him recently. It seems like the new Conor McGregor. I don't know.
Yeah, he's a big star. I mean, I probably shouldn't say this because I'm English and I'm a big fan. I don't at the moment see him winning a title. I think he's still very young. I think he's got a lot of improvements maybe to make in his stand up, but his ground game is very, very, very good. I watched him back when he was in the I think Strike Force was the previous promotion that he was in. Back when he had the orange shorts, and he was unbelievable when he used to pull guard. His legs were really flexible. He was very good at jiu-jitsu, wrestling. I'd just like to see a little bit more improvement in terms of his stand-up game. There's another fighter at the moment called Charles Oliveira.
No, I'm aware of those. I actually watch off UFC a bit. I actually a couple of years ago, I ended up practicing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because in Portugal there is a lot of coach for that. And I actually love. Again, zero cards, but I love UFC. But I admit I'm a Conor McGregor fanboy because I started watching because of him. You know, I could not even pretend that after all the stuff with Khabib, etc. The reality is I started watching UFC because of Conor McGregor. So because of that, I always like him. I mean, I understand out of the cage is a little bit crazy, but yeah.
But I think Paddy definitely has that same aura, doesn't he? He has that same presence. He's I mean, he calls himself the cash cow, but he puts bums on seats. And I think he's only had 2 fights in the UFC. Both of them have been sold out London shows with amazing crowds. So yeah, I think the fact that he's going straight to Vegas after his second fight tells you everything that you need to know about his stardom.
I think he is the first guy after McGregor that I felt that extra something, you know, that you say, oh, this kid, the personality, you get quite addicted to him, you know. There is something about him that, okay, if this guy is fighting, if this guy is talking, I need to see what and
I'd say there's one between them that's got close, but maybe isn't as. So a fighter called Sean O'Malley.
Oh, Sean O'Malley, yeah. I know. I'm also aware of Sean O'Malley.
Was close, but I do think I actually think that Paddy will bring bigger crowds than Sean O'Malley.
This is completely out of soccer right now, but I actually think that Sean O'Malley is probably a better fighter. But I think he forces the personality a little bit too much, and I think Paddy is authentic, and McGregor was authentic. So I think for the UFC, if Paddy can actually gain the title, I know it will be very difficult.
I hope so.
He becomes a crazy star. I think he actually can reach McGregor level type of fame, but that's a big if because
I mean, the reason I mentioned Charles Oliveira is that he was in a similar situation where he was a kind of a BJJ black belt, and he was unbelievable on the ground, and it's taken him quite a while, but he's eventually got to the point where his stand-up game is so elite now that he wins anywhere. And I'd just like to see that from Paddy. I'd like to see his stand-up get to that level so that you can't beat him anywhere. You take him down, he's really good there. You keep him on the feet, really good there.
But then the next match for Charles Oliveira is Islam Makhachev, the Khabib friend. And I think that will be difficult for again, maybe Charles proves me wrong again, because I always doubt Charles for some reason. Oh, but I think the new Khabib is a problem. You know?
I think so. I think he could potentially win, and he's got Khabib in the corner as well. So there was that recent video where he was Khabib was talking to him about the Kimura, and he was saying patience. And what I really liked from Khabib was that he was saying be careful, because he knew that Islam, if he'd have pushed too hard, the guy's arm would have been completely broken. And Khabib's in his corner still going, be careful, be patient, you'll get the tap, just because he knew he didn't want to break his arm. And Khabib wasn't even fighting. So I think that was great sportsmanship from him. And as much as I'm a McGregor fanboy, I do have quite a lot of respect
same. I like both, honestly. No, but we end up going a little bit out of the soccer talk. I hope people don't mind. But again, I love sports, not only soccer. So the second question was about a card that you would buy. You said potentially PSA 9 Mega Cracks. Why you think that would be the best buy around that? I think it's a great choice, by the way, but...
So I thought of two. I only mentioned one, but the other Messi card that I was thinking was I think the Landmarks Gold, which I think is number to about 25.
Okay.
That for me is like a real modern example of a card that's not a rookie card, but is a Prism card, which people love, is like a Downtowns or a Landmarks, is a set that, or insert, that people absolutely love. A chase card maybe is probably a better word than insert. And the fact that it's gold is another thing that people love. So you kind of have the two cards that are maybe both PSA 9 sit at the same price, which to me makes absolutely no sense, because I would go straight to the rookie any day of the week. But it's interesting to see how those two cards, although completely different and miles apart in terms of release dates, are around at the 20K mark. I would still probably think that the Messi Landmarks is a good buy, but it's not my preferred buy. And I think the reason that I did decide to go with the rookie is there's never the Messi Landmarks. There's always going to be this kaboom. There's always going to be a color blast. There's always going to be base cards that people are going to suddenly love, or gold might not be the next best thing. It might be stained glass or whatever else. You don't know what card designs are going to come out with, and you don't know what popularity people are going to come out with. You can always bank on the rookie.
I agree. Your conclusion is what I think, basically. The problem is there will always be another one. Maybe it's not Landmarks, maybe it's another name. But I would say one thing. I think the Landmarks cards for Messi is actually is a beautiful card. It's a card that one day I would love to. I think the gold is out of my budget, to be honest with you. But even the base, I would love to own one day. But related with what you said, if I had to pick between those two, I think the thing is, the more you need to explain a card, the less I like the card. And when you look to the Mega Cracks, super easy. You tell me, imagine I don't know anything about soccer. You tell me, this is the first card for Lionel Messi. That's it. I'm sold, because I automatically understand what you are throwing. Okay, it's the first collectible. It's the first Panini card. The Landmark, if you think about it, if I don't know anything about soccer, you take a good amount of time to try to explain me why I should buy that card. And this is a very basic trick that I have in my mind all the time. But I always think about this. The more I need to explain a card, the less I like the cards. And that's why people love rookies, because you pick a Roy Keane rookie. Why? Well, it's the first card for Roy Keane. You really don't need to say a lot. Then, of course, we go to condition rarity, to the true rarity, to see if there is more rookies. But the first glance, I think this is a really good thing to have in mind.
I've never thought about that before, but that actually makes a lot of sense. I'm definitely gonna have to steal that one for you if someone asks me that again.
A good example. A good example could be, think about this. Like I said, I don't collect a lot of ultra modern, but let's say 2017 Chrome, which is the first Topps Chrome. It's not that difficult to explain why people should collect that set. If you think about, well, okay, it's not a rookie, but it's the first Topps Chrome. Is one of the most popular brands. Is one of the most popular brands in America. But now try to explain me why I should collect a second-year Topps Chrome for Messi. It's really difficult to explain me that, because I think, okay, but there is something first about this, because being first about something, I personally think is huge. And I honestly believe if more people put things that way, especially when they are not sure about one card versus the other, this is a very basic thing, but at first glance can actually help you a lot.
Yeah, and I think Messi rookies are going to be harder and harder and harder and harder and harder to buy, because collectors will eat them up. They're not going to be for sale. If I'm a big Messi collector, what would I rather sell first? Would I rather sell a landmarks, or would I rather sell the rookie? And it would be landmarks every single day. And they know, people know that landmarks are liquid. They're very easy to sell. There's going to have, don't get me wrong, I love parallels, but also if you think there's always going to be one parallel better out there, unless you've got the one of one.
It's true.
So it's just like there's only one Messi rookie. There is only one. The image is just brilliant. I think it's a really, really nice, clean image. There's a lot of color on the card, and I think that is the one that I would go for. I get the other argument would be pick Ronaldo's rookie, and some people would argue Ronaldo's better than Messi, Messi's better than Ronaldo, but
I think both
Messi
will be solid choices. Honestly, I think it's about
Yeah.
preference, and especially you are buying a PSA 9. A PSA 9 is the pop report is not that tight, so you have something with condition rarity there. You have probably, I would say, top 3 most iconic cards in the hobby.
Yeah.
For some people, maybe even the most iconic card in the hobby. So I think you made a great choice, honestly. I think 20K for a Messi PSA 9 is solid.
And what was your choice? What would you say? What was your answer?
Mine was a little bit complex because I said 5K for the ST sticker. I guess I can explain.
But if you said for just one card for the 20K, what would your choice be for that one? Sorry.
Oh, just for one card.
Yeah.
I like your choice, honestly. I think it's a solid one. I also like a PSA 8, PSA 9. I'm not sure about the price for Cristiano Ronaldo because I also think it's a solid choice. But 20K, you can also buy a Pelé with a Bolo Jet.
I was about to say that, and that was within.
It's a PSA 1,
budget,
PSA 1.5, maybe a 2 if you are very likely, but a low grade. And I also like that. I think that is a cool card to own. I don't know. I think as long you are buying a GOAT, as long you are buying a card that is very easy to explain why it's so iconic, so important, you will be happy long run.
I suppose you could argue that the Argentina or the 78 Maradona, if you get that in a low enough grade, again, potentially that would be a 20K.
But then, actually, I'm saying the Liverpool again because I was going more into the direction of iconic cards. Because for 20K, I actually would prefer to buy a different Pelé. I'm not sure if you are aware of American, a set from Brazil. He's basically is looking at a camera. His face is a different picture. But is a rookie from Brazil, and I've been thinking more about that, because the Liverpool is from Sweden.
Yeah,
I actually do not like that, because I actually prefer to have a rookie. I know people disagree, but I'm saying what I believe at least. I actually like the idea of the rookie for Pelé being from Brazil, and the American that set is actually quite more rare than the Alifa Bolo Jet. I understand, like I said, the Alifa Bolo Jet is the most popular. It's same logic as the ST sticker. The ST sticker is more rare than the Mega Cracks, but people prefer the Mega Cracks because they like the picture more. And the cards, with time, they gain a lore, they gain a history around them that is difficult to explain, but the collectors love that type of stuff. And think about this: a guy that enters right now in the market with the budget, most likely he cannot afford the Messi Mega Cracks, but for sure is the type of card that if he keeps collecting, he'll always have that card in mind. Oh, that was one of my dream cards when I started, and because of that, there will always be some premium for super iconic cards.
And it's your £20,000. I think at the end of the day, you should buy the card that you want the most, the one that you think is the most visually appealing. But I think, anything from South America kind of just makes sense for buying South American players. It makes sense to
I agree.
To buy the sticker which originates from there.
Then another great choice will be a PSA 9 Zidane rookie, because I believe it's 20K also. I also think that's amazing as an amazing choice.
Another good buy,
And this is the top grade, actually, that there is no PSA 10. So you have the best Zidane rookie card. I actually like that idea.
There's so many players. R9, if you had the R9.
Yeah, probably a top grade will be also.
9, 10,
Yeah, no, there is a lot of options. The problem is to get the 20K.
Yeah, yeah. Not everyone's just got 20K lying around to spend on one card.
Okay,
Anyone?
so this question I really want to talk about before we close the podcast was
Yeah.
the top three prospects. You said Pedri,
Yes. Yeah.
Bellingham, and Foden. The one I disagreed for is Foden, and I will explain you why.
Okay.
I think first of all, I think Foden is an amazing player. Is nothing against him. I think he's amazing.
Yeah.
But when I look at prices for Foden, and another thing, I don't play in modern a lot. So, but when I look at prices for Foden versus Vinicius Junior, I think Vinicius Junior is a better player. Already won Champions League. I really feel that Foden is a good example of a Premier League player a new kid having some type of tax. I'm sorry. And because of that, I kind of don't like Foden that much. I like Bellingham a lot. Bellingham, actually related with the last talk, remembers me Zidane quite a lot. I'm not comparing before, but he plays with his head, always looking, great vision. I actually think he's probably one of the closest players I saw to Zidane. Very young, very far from Zidane yet, but I see some quality. So I really like Bellingham, honestly. Pedri. Pedri is a difficult one to judge because, of course, he's amazing. He's a mix between Xavi and Iniesta.
That would be the comparison, definitely.
He's Iniesta. I'm not sure he's Xavi. I think he's a mix. I think he's quite unique. What scares me about Pedri is Barcelona. I know Barcelona right now is better than it was last season, but this is not the Barcelona we saw growing, because you remember Barcelona was unstoppable at one point. We knew that, okay, Champions League is probably Barcelona, Real Madrid.
But then even like 80s, 90s, that the Barcelona have always been really
great, super strong team.
Yeah.
Maybe right now with Lewandowski things can get better, but I'm still a little bit not sure. I need to see them doing, and I mean it's so difficult to replace players like Xavi, Iniesta, Puyol. I mean, it's almost Messi, of course. I'm not even talking about Messi because that it is what it is. But
they have so many young talents, but that just well, you can't say that you're never going to win anything with kids, because that was once said about Man United, and then look what happened there. But there's so much promise to come out of some of these young players for Barcelona. But yeah, I totally agree with you. Players like Lewandowski are brilliant in terms of bringing the best out of those young players and teaching them about playing in the Champions League through a lot of his experience.
No,
I kind of wish he'd stay at Bayern a little bit longer though.
No, I would prefer him at Bayern, honestly. I think the Barcelona move, I know a lot of people, there's a lot of hype. And you can tell me, look, if Lewandowski wins Champions League with Barcelona, there is nothing he can do at Bayern Munich that will be better than that. I agree. The best scenario at Barcelona is better than the best scenario at Bayern Munich. I think we all agree with that. But I think the most realistic scenario is better at Bayern Munich, because he wins the league again. In Champions League, they're always one of the favorites. May win, may not, but they have a better chance than Barcelona for sure, in my opinion. The thing that I actually think Lewandowski in general is a bit undervalued for the player he is, but Lewandowski was super close to actually become the top goal scorer ever for Bundesliga, and even potentially the top goal scorer for Bayern Munich. And I think that would be such a big deal when people look at the history books, going to Barcelona. I personally don't like it. Maybe I'm wrong and he wins a lot, but I don't like it.
I think Aguero going to Barcelona was perfect timing. I think Lewandowski, he had so much more to achieve. I think a Ballon d'Or would have obviously come his way.
Bayern Munich is such a machine. Why leave that team? I honestly don't like the move for Lewandowski. I think people, oh, but if he scores, I think the most likely scenario is the transfer is not great for him. Is likely that he scores 20, 30 goals. I think so. I mean, he's a machine, but scoring goals does not mean winning titles. That's the problem for him. So, yeah.
Just a quick one on Bayern, just to get a really quick point on this. What's your, or do you believe that Joshua Kimmich is underrated in the hobby?
Okay. Kimmich, for me, is the most similar. Actually, I'm doing a lot of comparisons today, but is the most similar player I saw since Xavi stopped playing. I think he's very similar to Xavi. Again, I thought if you watch my content, you know this. Xavi for me was the best midfielder I ever saw. But I think Kimmich nowadays is one of the best midfielders. The problem with Kimmich was the COVID stuff that he ended up stopping. I think it was like 2 months without playing last year. Was a mess, honestly. But I think Kimmich is one of the best German players right now in the world.
Yeah, I said this the other day. I can't quite fathom why his cards are as low as they are, but even kind of the top end autos, definitely the recent stuff. I haven't looked too much into his rookies, but he's someone that I'm definitely interested in at the moment, because I can't work out, as good as he is playing for a team as good as they are, why his rookies don't seem to be
more expensive, right?
It doesn't make sense. Yeah, it doesn't quite, quality to price isn't quite there at the moment. But
tell me,
Muller, like, look how good Muller is, and look at what he's achieved in over his career. And now people only seem to be starting collecting Muller rookie stickers, and I'm like, Muller's been around for ages. He's been unbelievable, but I guess
a couple of stats for you, because it's not that I know this from the top of my head. I basically made videos for Muller recently. Right. Muller, after Messi, is the top assister in the last, I believe, 20 years in Europe.
Yeah.
Muller is the top assister ever in Bundesliga. Look, when you start looking at Muller's career,
doesn't surprise me though.
I mean, you need to put Muller as top 10 in the last 20 years, probably, of this, I would say, this generation. I mean, does not get much better than Muller when you think about. But the thing with Muller is no marketing at all. He's a guy that plays football. Maybe his play style is not beautiful for the eye, but he's amazing. I mean, and another thing, Muller in 2014, when Germany ended up winning the World Cup, got second place in the best player at World Cup, but that was a robbery because Messi ended up winning, and Messi was not the best player on that World Cup. Was Thomas Muller by far, in my opinion. And Messi is probably the player I like the most, but I think it's fair to say this: Muller was the best player on 2014, and in 2010. I believe he was the best youngest player of the World Cup. So Muller's career is insane when you look about it. A lot of 2 Champions League, World Cup. I mean, do not get.
He's got everything that you would ask for in a player that you would invest in. I mean, the Ballon d'Or is maybe the only thing that's missing, but we live in an era where only one person has won the Ballon d'Or, not named Messi and Ronaldo. And
that's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, even I can't see it, but I feel like now we're starting to see with the tail end of Messi and Ronaldo's careers, who's going to,
by the way,
be anyone.
Thomas Muller is not done yet. That's the thing.
That's true.
Thomas Muller probably have 3-4 seasons at top level. So. Again, I have some bias on this because I actually believe Thomas Muller is one of the most undervalued players in the hobby.
I agree.
But I really think Thomas Muller, and I'm not saying just rookies, that's the thing people sometimes goes in the wrong way. Okay, rookies, but what about high-end cards? Even high-end cards for him sometimes are $100, you know? A funny story that I guess not even the first time I tell this story, but I was looking at Buffon cards, and I was looking at high-end, the flawless, etc. Because I know for Messi, I end up missing the boat on that. But a flawless Buffon, I'm not sure if right now the price is still the same, but it's like $500. A top Scrum, a parallel, let's say a green, is like $50. And I think, Jesus, this is even cards with in the ultra modern sphere. If you really like players like, I mean, Buffon again, do not get much better than that. I mean, we are talking about probably the best goalkeeper ever, or at least top three. It depends on opinion, of course, but I think, and actually, I would love to know your opinion on this. I think the market is very heavy on goats. Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, super expensive. Pelé, Maradona, probably. Cruyff, probably. And the kids like Haaland, Mbappe, also super expensive. But I think the rest of the market, you still find a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, I completely agree. What has always interested me is that when you look at American sports, and I noticed a lot of not all Americans, but I noticed some recently American YouTubers who've kind of dipped their toe into football where they haven't maybe before. I find it's interesting that American collectors or people that collect American sports like American football, for example, all of the money is in quarterbacks, but there's barely any money in any of the other positions. Yes, probably the sort of the catchers, the wide receivers would be the second bet, but the drop or the gap between one player in an entire team, only one player is that player that people seem to be looking for. So that is really interesting to me, because when I used to open up boxes of cards, I found myself going, oh, well, none of these are quarterbacks, and there's only one quarterback in a team. There's only a few decent quarterbacks that are going to be in the set, and you're looking for such a small amount. Whereas with football, you can look at all positions. Like you said, I know a lot of people avoid goalkeepers, but there is still money in collecting Lev Yashin or Buffon or Casillas or Neuer or whoever you decide to like. That's the one thing that really interests me about football, is there's so many players that you can go for. And I think people that dip their toe into soccer or football that are big in other sports would presume that goats or maybe a striker is probably the only player that they would look for. So they're thinking, right, well, if I'm just going to buy maybe one card, it's like what I did. My first ever card was a Michael Jordan rookie card. I bought the GOAT, and then that was it. And then I found myself getting into sports cards more and more. But it does make sense that people go, right, okay, well, if I'm just going to invest in one player, I'll invest in the best. And that
makes sense. Yeah, I understand that. I mean, you don't come to the market and you think about investing in John Terry. That's very likely, right? Was a great defender, but
well, you say that, but I do see a lot of people get into the hobby and they buy a big card, and it is of someone like John Terry, and you think, okay, yeah, I understand where you're coming from. He was one of the best centre backs we've ever seen in the Premier League. Again, buying someone like Vincent Kompany, brilliant player. But as a sports card, as a buy, if you're looking to resell that, it's going to be a tough one. Even someone like Alphonso Davies, it is a good buy, but he's still a left back at the end of the day. He's still a fullback. So
I think Alphonso Davies, the key thing is the Canadian market, because there is a lot of people from that region in the hobby. Could be a similar case like Pulisic, By the way,
Jonathan David is Canadian as well, and his prices are through the roof.
And let me say one thing: David is actually top quality in terms of player.
Very good.
The guy is amazing. But my thoughts on this is, you are correct that sometimes you ask me, do you like John Terry more or Messi? Well, I like Messi more. I mean, I cannot even try to lie on that. But I think the key thing is actually try to invest. Look, collect what you want, of course, but try to, if you want to have a good return in the future, this is what I believe, you should look at greatness. And yes, okay, goalkeepers people may not care about, but Buffon is not the normal goalkeeper. I mean, Buffon is a name that everyone knows. If you have friends that watch football, I bet the money you want, all of them know Buffon, right? He's a name that everyone knows. I mean, Buffon, Neuer, Casillas, those guys, people are aware. So again, if you tell, oh, but a new goalkeeper right now, that I would agree. I don't think that's probably a great buy. But when you're talking about some of the best in history in the position, I think that can make sense. For example, Roberto Carlos as a left defender.
Yeah.
Okay, he's a defender, but that man was so special at what he did that I actually think is a great investment. Look, Thomas Muller could go into that direction, being honest. I think Thomas Muller, in what he does, being almost the second striker, playing almost as a false nine, is probably one of the best ever to ever do it. I mean, and because of that, I tend to put things this way. What I'm seeing right now, even if the market is not seeing, there is a likely scenario. If my fundamentals are correct, one day the market will agree with me. And I could be wrong. But I think players like Buffon, Roberto Carlos, Muller, man, those guys are elite. So those guys are historical players for me.
I suppose I'm almost contradicting my point because you reminded me the other day. So I bought a Dani Alves.
One of the best ever in his position.
Yeah, game worn patch. And it was on a kind of a auction type app that's quite new over here. I think it started in France, but it's broken out into the UK. And the guy was making a good point as he was kind of, I guess, pitching it as people were putting in the bids. And he was like, this guy has won everything, pretty much everything there is to win. He's one of the most winningest players of all time. If you're talking about trophies,
he is the player with the most titles ever.
There you go. I for some reason I thought it's either him or Marcelo, but yeah, it probably makes more sense that it's him.
Marcelo is the Real Madrid player with most titles, but Dani Alves is the player ever with most titles.
That would be the statistic that I've got messed up. Yeah, so I mean that to me makes a lot of sense as a kind of a maybe a sleeper pick at the moment, maybe a pick that some people aren't thinking about, because I've just caught myself saying it there. Fullbacks maybe isn't something that people are going to be interested in, but I mean, yeah, Roberto Carlos. I mean, his free kicks you can't forget, and he completely changed the way that fullbacks used to play. Getting as forward as he did and then going all the way back. If you look at players now like Andy Robertson, I'm sure Andy Robertson watched tons and tons of videos of players like Dani Alves and Roberto Carlos. If you see how forward he gets up,
amazing.
Back and then
but then I think you are correct. That's the thing. I think what you said is probably true, that in generally, left backs are not a great buy. But I mean, then exactly, Daniel Alves is not the normal player. I mean, think about what is the best right back ever. I mean, Daniel Alves is probably in the conversation with Cafu,
Zabaleta,
with, maybe Jalma from the old Brazil teams. But I mean, there is not a lot of players in that conversation. So I think if you are picking the best of the best, that's okay. For example, actually a great example, Beckenbauer. Well, no one cares about central defenders, but people care about Beckenbauer and Maldini. Why? Well, because they are the best ever. And Sergio Ramos for me could be also in that conversation, but I think people prefer probably Maldini and Beckenbauer. But yeah, I mean, if you pick the best of the best, no matter the position, but what you said is correct, honestly. If you tell me, should I buy left backs in general? Probably no. That's the correct answer. But if you tell, but I'm targeting the best of the best, well, that's a different conversation.
But then I suppose would you to think about it like this, would you be able to tell? So if we take a Haaland or an Mbappe as an example, would you be able to tell that a left back or a right back in the point of their career that they're at the moment would be a great buy? The argument might be that you would have to wait maybe a little bit longer with one of these fullbacks or these centre backs. You've got to give them a little bit more time than you would maybe an upcoming striker where you think, right, he's definitely going to win the Ballon d'Or. And maybe Ballon d'Ors a lot of the time are contributed to more forward players.
There is one guy that, again, 0 cards for him, but I think he's special. I could be wrong again. Is the Liverpool right back? I believe he's Alexander Arnold Trent, right?
Yeah,
I think he is actually a special player. I could be wrong. I think he's still very young, already won Champions League. I don't know. I think England have a really have a player for a lot of years on that position, but I don't know. I cannot predict the future. But I agree with you. I think you are okay taking risks with strikers, but with defenders gets much more scary because first of all, you are already entering in a market that you are not so sure, probably. And the thing with strikers is, even if Mbappe does not make a great season this season, there is still market for Mbappe, I bet, because they still have, but Mbappe will come back. A striker, forget about, not a striker, a defender, people, he's trash. Does not matter anymore. I think is different. And this is actually interesting because I said that, okay, if you target Daniel Alves, Cafu, the best right backs, I agree. But for strikers, is a little bit different. You can think about 20 strikers that I think are a good buy. And if that makes sense, but you don't think about 20 left backs that are a good buy. Because again, people love strikers. And to a certain point also makes sense. Look, Gary Neville for United was a good right back. But I have so much more memories with Wayne Rooney, with Ryan Giggs. Those are the guys that I thought are really. So I also get that because you can tell, in terms of greatness, do you think Rooney is much far from Gary Neville? If you look at position, maybe not. Maybe Gary Neville was one of the best in his position in his time, and maybe for Rooney, you may not even make the argument. So, but Rooney was something else when ended up appearing on Premier League and. Finish my thoughts because I'm going a little bit too long. Is this Ronaldinho? If you look at Ronaldinho's stats, they are not super impressive. But if you saw, you know what I'm trying, because Ronaldinho was not stats, and people say, but Messi is much better than Ronaldinho. Yeah, probably, I agree with that. But sometimes stats don't tell the entire story, and I feel a great example of that is probably Maradona, because if you look at Maradona, you think, hey man, people call this guy the GOAT, but Maradona won what? 2 Serie A's and 1 World Cup. Of course he's good, but you think, but there is players with much better resumes almost, what I'm trying to say. But then I talk with people that saw Maradona and they tell me, you are crazy. Maradona was the best player ever, because what is about sometimes he becomes almost a phenomenon. Actually, similar to McGregor, to Paddy Pimblett, there is something about certain players like Ronaldinho, Maradona that, man, you just fall in love for them. Almost you feel I love those guys.
But I think Maradona is a great example because you think he was in that Barcelona team and then he left for Napoli, and a lot of people were like, hang on, what's he doing going to Napoli? They're a terrible team, and at the time were an awful team. They didn't really. There was no standout player in that team whatsoever. But for him to come in that team and then for the fans to take to him, everyone to take to him, and then for him to lift up that entire city and then take them to win titles is just. That alone is greatness. Is taking a team that was never contending for a title for them to just be able to buy that one player, and then for him to go in there and bring them titles and bring them trophy-ware, I think is. I
would say one thing. I never saw Maradona or Pelé playing.
No,
but and I have more Maradona cards. But being totally honest, I admire Maradona more than Pelé for one reason.
Yeah, me
it's
too.
It's not that I think Pelé was incredible, because I think Pelé was incredible and probably will always be the GOAT for most people. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
But the thing for me is Pelé had an incredible Brazilian team. I mean, Garrincha, Djalma, some of those players are still some of the best ever in the position.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Man, Maradona played not with randoms, but almost. I mean, the Maradona team on 86. Again, Valdan was a great player, yes, but come on, that team was Maradona. Napoli, yes, Careca was a great player, but Maradona. The thing with Maradona is the type of player that you kind of imagine in a movie, that, a guy alone wins everything. Pelé, was amazing. But Pelé, and is not his fault, to be fair, because if you have great teams, even better.
Yeah.
I don't know. There is something about Maradona that almost a mystic, that, come on, this guy. And I honestly also believe that not maybe, Pelé probably have a better career, but prime by prime, if you have to pick the best moment ever for Pelé versus the best moment ever for Maradona, I think Maradona was the best player to ever touch a ball.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think was against England on '86. I know the goal was controversial. He scored 2 goals: the end of God and the one that
the other one that he just ran through the entire, ran past about 10 players or something. Yeah,
but that's magic, basically. It's something that, come on.
I couldn't agree more. And I use that that argument all the time. And two people that get compared all the time is Steven Gerrard and Frank Lampard, 2 brilliant midfielders, played in the same position, arguably different players. But the thing that makes me say Gerrard all the time is that Liverpool team. There's compared to the team that Lampard had around him. I mean, that AC Milan Liverpool Champions League final, the fact that Gerrard just carried that team to win that, I think is unreal. And I think you can compare that to Maradona a lot. It's just that team he had around him just wasn't nearly as good as the team that Pelé had around him. And also, I guess you could argue that Maradona played for the teams that we do know, like the Barcelonas, the Napolis, whereas I guess Pelé didn't quite have that on his side in terms of playing for those. We didn't see Pelé play for Barcelona.
Yes, but for me is the thing. Pelé won 3 World Cups. Maradona won 1. Man,
yeah.
but that one was so special.
Yeah,
that I like it more than the other 3. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, and even winning. I mean, when people think about the Napoli stuff, I honestly think people don't understand how incredible that was, because look, Italy at that time was insane. You are talking about Milan with Van Basten, Gullit, Rijkaard, Maldini, Baresi. You have Inter with another super strong team, and Maradona,
the best league in the world. Yeah,
Juventus with a strong team, and Maradona was the king for 2 years. But still incredible to think about. And Maradona made so much mistakes in his career that it is what it is, basically. But that's why I think the Maradona is like is a player that relates with a lot of us, in the sense that we are not perfect. Maradona also was not perfect, but man, his prime was something else, basically.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more.
I enjoy watching Cristiano Ronaldo, Messi more, because I have more connection with them. But if I had to pick one GOAT from the past, Maradona is the one. And I saw a documentary recently about Maradona, so I'm quite inspired by him. And actually, Guardiola said an amazing thing. I'm not sure when he died, when Maradona died. Maradona said that he went to Argentina and he saw a wall saying this, some type of graffiti or something that said, does not matter. Basically said, Maradona, does not matter what you did, what your life, matter what you did for us. And I thought that was amazing, because yes, Maradona made a lot of mistakes, but inside of the pitch, he was incredible. And another thing that people forget about, Maradona was one of the first guys calling out Platini and all of the mafia in FIFA. And people at the time said, oh, Maradona is on coke, Maradona is crazy. No, but Maradona was quite ahead of his time even on that. He said that Platini and Pelé, they are getting paid by FIFA, they should be quiet. And after a couple of scandals, guess what? They end up being right.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, yeah. To finish this, I think the last topic that I would like just to quick thoughts, honestly, is about the Premier League legends, because I think you agree with me that they deserve a premium. Actually, going a little bit different on this one, for the pre-modern era, what are the 5 players you like the most on Premier League? You said Gerrard, so I assume he's one.
Yeah. That's okay. So the ones that I collect are the ones that spring to mind, and there's probably you could list off a load and say, "Dan, why didn't you mention those?" And I would completely agree with you.
Of
But
course.
if I just talk about the ones that spring to mind, Rooney, Gerrard, Lampard, Torres, and Drogba, I think would be the five that just to me I'm like,
Great list.
those players were all strikers, but no, two midfielders, but
Two midfielders, yeah.
yeah, I mean,
that list, I like it a lot. I would not pick probably Drogba amazing, Lampard amazing, Gerrard amazing, Rooney amazing. Torres, I'm not sure. I thought he was very good at one point in time, but I felt his career. I probably would put Scholes. Again, if I want to be honest, the best player was Thierry Henry at the Premier League, but I don't know. I think there is a lot of choices basically.
Yeah, I mean, I put Scholes. Funnily enough, I've made the argument for Scholes over Lampard and Gerrard before plenty of times, but yeah, I mean, Roy Keane I would put in there, but no, these card prices aren't necessarily the best. And I guess if people are going for strikers or real iconic players, then the kind of the Scholes, Lampard, Gerrard, all those kind of arguments.
The thing about Lampard, Gerrard, and Scholes. Let's see if you agree with me on this one.
Mm-hmm.
I think Gerrard is the most iconic of all of them because Gerrard represents a club. Gerrard was the man for Liverpool. So in terms of being iconic, I think it's Gerrard.
Yeah.
In terms of quality, I think it's Scholes. I think Scholes was incredible in his position. But I actually think Lampard as a package probably was the best player because Lampard scored so many goals. I believe he still owns the record for most goals as a midfielder. Yeah. So I actually think all three are great for different reasons. I think probably people like Gerrard the most, honestly, because it's Gerrard. I mean, the man was super iconic for Liverpool. I think quality probably goes for Scholes. Better, I would not say even better player, but more a modern player that I think if you put Lampard playing right now, I think Lampard will be elite, because he was already very ahead of his game, scoring a lot of goals. So yeah, but all three are amazing, honestly. And funny that Gerrard is probably the biggest idol for Liverpool, I would assume. Lampard is probably also the biggest idol, with probably Drogba and John Terry being also close for Chelsea. And Scholes is not the biggest idol, but he's also one of the idols for United fans.
Yeah, I think United fans truly do know how good Scholes was in terms of ability, in terms of game IQ. I think is unbelievable player. Maybe someone that's not talked about enough. But
what I don't get is how can you guys not win something with such amazing players like Lampard, Gerrard?
We tried to put all three of them into a team, and it just did not work. It was the opposite of Xavi and Iniesta. It's just those three players in one team. It was an attempt to just put them all. They were all good, and they're all fantastic for their teams. But I think, I completely agree. I think bad management let us down. Has done recently as well.
I think Gerrard and Lampard in particular are very similar. So you kind of have to pick one, but then it's weird.
It's happened before where players cancel each other out because both are unreal, but want the ball or too much, or they don't give to each other, or there's maybe that rivalry. I don't know, but
no, for
maybe
sure.
under better management. I mean, we should have won something. That team was crazy. I think we should have won something in the recent tournament as well. But
yeah, I agree. It is what it is. Basically,
it was ours to win. That Italy team was one of the worst Italy teams.
Yeah, I thought England, but I mean, this is not a critique to England, but I feel like they always fail in a crucial moment. That's why I always have struggled trusting in them. But then. Thank you so much.
Man City about the Champions League. It's just like unreal team, but
there is something mental,
Yeah, it must be. It's a curse.
I agree.
One day we'll win something, hopefully.
No, for sure. Well, then this is a long conversation already. Thank you so much
Yeah,
for
appreciate that.
spending this time with me. Means a lot. It was a pleasure. If you have some final thoughts, this is the moment, basically.
Yeah, pleasure's mine. Yeah, thank you very much for. I think we've been going 2 hours on the dot now. So yeah, thank you very much. It hasn't felt like that at all. I've thoroughly enjoyed this. It's good to chat with someone who's got definitely similar thoughts in terms of the hobby. We might sometimes collect different things, but it's nice to see that we kind of agree a lot, and it's
100%.
Yeah, it was a complete pleasure to talk to you. I don't think I have any points really. I mean, if your viewers potentially interested in checking out my stuff, it's Sports Cards UK, or one word, on Instagram, YouTube.
No, I will leave all the links. Yeah, people should of course check your Instagram, your basically all your social media, YouTube. Yeah, because I think that they will also enjoy it quite a lot. So,
oh, thank you.
Thanks so much, guys. See you next time, and yeah, bye.